Are you considering customer service training for your team? In this video, I'll share 7 crucial questions to ask before you start any customer service training program. Your responses will potentially save you thousands of dollars in training costs, and they'll not only delight your customers, but they'll give you the best chance of motivating your team. I'm Jeff Mowatt. For over 30 years, I've worked with managers, supervisors, and business owners to help enhance their team's service. Often managers bring me in because they've had training in the past, but it seemed like it wore off, or there was staff turnover and new employees didn't get that training in the past. So any improvements in customer service were short-lived. Now, before we get too far into this, I just want to say up front that any customer service training is certainly going to be better than no customer service training. But that said, in order to get the best results from your customer service training program, ask yourself these 7 questions. Oh, and here's a tip. Be sure to watch this right through to the end, because right near the end of the program, I'm going to be asking you, okay, if you've had training programs in the past and there was an issue, it didn't live up to your expectation, then which of these 7 issues was the problem? So I'd love to hear from you at the end of this session. One question to ask when it comes to choosing a customer service training program is this a flavor of the month? There's a lot of gimmicks when it comes to customer service training. One might be how to wow customers at, say, a Disney theme park, or maybe it's how to toss fish at Pike's Fish Market in Seattle, or maybe it's how to wow a customer by giving them the extra pickle for free. And all those programs are fine. They do have value. And certainly if you're dealing directly with end customers who are buying something that they often buy, and how do you differentiate yourself? Those are really good, solid programs to have. But the challenge is, if you don't deal necessarily with end consumers, maybe you do business to business, or frankly, maybe you're dealing with customers who are making a grudge purchase, or they're stressed typically, or they're rushed, or they're frustrated, they're not in a great mood, this isn't a holiday for them. Well, then, unfortunately, a lot of those gimmicky type approaches aren't going to be relevant for your team. So I would encourage you, when you're looking at a customer service training program, get beyond the wowing customers and just focus on satisfying customers who are stressed and making a grudge purchase. And the fundamental aspect to look at is this program focused on building trust? It's not just about having a good time. It's about building trust. Because frankly, friendliness is overrated when people aren't in a good mood anyway. We're having a disconnect with people. Question to ask yourself, is this program focused on building trust with customers and with coworkers, even when they're stressed? Another question to ask when choosing a customer service training program is, will management participate in the program? There is a word for managers who expect their frontline employees to get training without attending, participating, and supporting in that training themselves. And the word is hypocrisy. Unfortunately, what happens if you get employees who are trained in customer service practices that the management doesn't agree with, well, then management is going to undermine the effectiveness of the program. So before we embark upon any training, we want to make sure that the management team, every person within the management team in all the functional operational areas, are willing to participate and support that customer service training. Another key question that I suspect you may be wondering when it comes to taking on a customer service training program is, will this motivate my team? Now, it's funny because sometimes I'm referred to as a motivational speaker. And I got to tell you that, I have a hard enough time motivating myself. I don't know if I can motivate anyone else. But more importantly, the rah, you can do it kind of motivational messages, unfortunately, wear off after a couple of hours when your employees start dealing with somebody who's rushed or frustrated or sometimes even abusive. So I don't think that motivational messages around, you can do it, believe in yourself, are worth investing in. What does motivate employees to make changes is when they understand why making a change in that employee's behavior is going to not only benefit the company and the customers, but will also benefit the employees themselves. In other words, a lot of the training needs to be around why we're proposing changes in behavior. And when employees understand why it will benefit not only the company and employees, but themselves, well, now they're invested in it. They begin to own it. So we want to make sure that whatever the training program is, that there's a lot going into explaining why we should answer the phone with our name as opposed to, can I help you? So there needs to be some rationale behind that. Motivation has a lot more to do with motive than mood. Another question to ask when it comes to choosing a customer service training program is, what if some of our employees miss out? One approach would be, well, we just bring that trainer back in, we get new employees, we put them through the program. Well, that's not very efficient. It's going to cost a lot to keep bringing a trainer back in to deliver for the 1 or 2 or 20 employees who come in. So one of the questions to ask is that trainer open to recording that session? I know when we work with our clients, one of the things I often offer, I'll bring our professional videographer and we'll film the session so that he can edit it. And in this case, you'll end up with an orientation video that you can use not only for your current employees, but also for your future new hires. These days, we also want to confirm that that trainer is open to providing virtual seminars. And, the typical approach to virtual training is that you've got a talking head over a slide deck that plays, and you're looking at all this PowerPoint punishment, one bullet point after another. That is painful. It's hard for employees to want to watch. It is almost encouraging your employees who are getting a webinar to look through their email or to take phone calls while they're, quote unquote, attending this seminar. So we want to make sure that if you are using virtual training, that it's done professionally. I know we, for example, we've set this up. We use high-end cameras, microphones like what you see here. And at the same time, we use a meetings format where we can engage employees. We're asking employees to interact with one another. We're moving them into breakout rooms. There's a lot now that we can do virtually to make this a much more engaging experience for our employees. So ask yourself, what's available for the folks who aren't at this first seminar? Another question to ask when it comes to customer service training is there any reinforcement after the live or in-person or virtual training itself? Because a one-shot event is like working out one time. One workout may do more harm than good, sets up more expectation than we can follow through with. And similarly, when it comes to a seminar, well, a one-shot seminar is eventually going to wear off. So the question is, are you dealing with a service provider that has reinforcement tools, whether it's online courses or tips or tip sheets or something that continually turns this from being a one-time event into an ongoing process? And that way, just like working out, over a period of time, you get people who are really developing skills. Another question to ask when it comes to choosing a customer service training program is, will this be relevant? We can have presenters and trainers come in and talk about lessons they've learned in life as a professional athlete or when they climb a mountain. And all those things are interesting. There's nothing wrong with those types of messages. But what's more important is it going to be relevant enough so that when a employee is faced with a challenge, an upset customer, they're not blaming the service department or the sales department? And that has little to do with somebody who's maybe overcome some obstacle in their life or climbed a mountain. Not to denigrate any of those programs, but the real question is that trainer willing to really get to know your organization well enough that they interview several people and then make whatever message they have specifically relevant for your circumstances. I know that's one of the biggest challenges, biggest thing that takes all my time when it comes to working with clients is I interview the most respected people within that organization so that we can tailor that message and make it relevant. So a real important question to ask is not so much, is it fun and is it engaging? That's our next tip, but it's really about, is it going to be relevant to our world? And the more that your trainer talks about how you can implement the ideas, the more it's going to be fascinating, because it's talking about your employees' most important topic in life, them, and how they can use this on a daily basis. Last question to ask when it comes to choosing a customer service training program is, will it engage my team? One of the big challenges is, I bet you've experienced this at some point in your life, where you attend a training session and you are just looking at your watch going, when will this be done? How much of my time, what am I missing back? I could have been doing emails right now. We get frustrated when we have a presenter that's frankly boring. And so the question is, how do we choose somebody who's going to engage our employees in a way that's going to be entertaining and that will stick? And part of the challenge is that anybody can present themselves as being a professional speaker if they've got a good website, for example. So one way of determining whether or not this person is, in fact, an expert in their area is to look at, have they written anything? Are they a thought leader? Or are they just giving a book report on something they've read from some other bestseller along the way? Are they actually leading a conversation enough that they actually believe in it, so that it helps your team members follow along in that journey of change? One tip when it comes to choosing a presenter that is going to have probably the highest chance of being a hit with your employees, and that's to check their professional designations. If, for example, the presenter has their CSP, their Certified Speaking Professional designation, well, that's the highest earned designation in the speaking profession. And if you're dealing with CSP, you know that you're dealing with somebody who has a track record. If they've been elected by their national association into the Speaker Hall of Fame, well, that's a pretty good indicator that they're going to be good in front of your audience. You can pretty much guarantee this person is not going to be boring. And once you've identified speakers with those types of credentials, well, then contact them directly and see if they're willing to certainly chat with you about what your situation is and tailor the presentation to meet your unique needs. I think you're going to find you're pleased with the results. Let's recap. And in considering past training programs that you've had or seminars you've attended, I'd like you to think about, okay, if it didn't quite meet your expectations, what do you think was the issue? Which of these 7 drawbacks that maybe should have been looked at would have made a big difference for you? Was the issue with a past training program that it was a flavor of the month? Yeah, it had a catchy theme, but it didn't necessarily have a lot of relevance for the way we interact with our customers. Was the issue that management didn't participate? If we had a whole bunch of frontline employees who took training on do what needs to be done for the customer, especially when things go wrong, but managers aren't supportive of that, well, then there's going to be a disconnect. And we're going to actually have morale being decreased by the training as opposed to enhanced. And of course, enhancing our customer service relationships and the loyalty that we have with our customers because of the training. So consider, is management behind this? Or was it that they didn't participate? Was the problem that there was no behavior change? And when you're thinking about why there was no behavior change, was it because we told the employees here, do this, do this, do this, but they didn't really understand why? They didn't understand the background. They didn't buy into it at the outset. Just because somebody has told me this is the way it should be done doesn't mean I'm going to do it. I'm going to eventually revert back to the old ways of interacting with my customers. Was there a discussion about why every principle is being introduced? Did some employees miss out? We did all this training, but if it was not recorded or you've got a lot of turnover, well, then it kind of wears off, doesn't it? And that leads us to our next challenge, and that's it was a one-time event. There was no reminders, no ongoing tips, no reinforcement backup. So there was no reinforcement of the learning. Was the issue with the past training program that the trainer did not customize the material? Yeah, they had good concepts, but the trainer didn't realize that in our circumstance, some of the things that we're recommending is just not doable or not relevant. Or was the problem that the trainer was boring? I mean, maybe the trainer talked to us like we were children in a classroom, or the trainer didn't know how to engage people, or didn't know how to make it entertaining or make it relevant, or just frankly was phoning it in, so to speak. Was the problem the trainer, him or herself? Well, my hope for you is that when you are choosing a customer service training program, that these questions and tips have been helpful. I'll be happy to chat with you about our trusted advisor customer service training programs. Drop me a line and we'll chat. I'm Jeff Mowatt. If you found this video to be helpful, then I think you're going to love our tips. You'll find them for free at jeffsbusinesstips.com. See you next time.